So here's a brief introduction to value stream mapping. There's more material on the course homepage. Value stream mapping is a tool to analyze a process flow and identify waste. It originally comes from the manufacturing industry, and therefore some translation into software engineering is needed. So for example, when you talk about inventory in lean manufacturing, we would talk about partially performed work in software development, and so on and so on. So let's go through an example instead. Let's say you and a friend want to share a cake, and now we're going to use value stream mapping to figure out what's the process by which we can reach this goal, and to find out where can we optimize the process. The first step is to look at the purpose, the values, the scope, the stakeholders, and the roles of the team members. Now the purpose is simple. We want to get the cake faster. That's the purpose of doing the value stream mapping. The values that we have in this is we want to avoid waiting. The scope, that's the start and the end points of this process. So we enter the bakery and it ends when we're eating the cake. Stakeholders are you, your friend, the baker, and the sales representative. The team members doing the value stream mapping, that's you in this case, and you're the end-to-end process owner. Now these are the end points. We have you on one end and the goal to eat the cake on the other end. A lot of recommendations say that you should do your value stream mapping from the end and work your way backwards. So what do you need in order to eat the cake? You need to unpack and you need to slice it. And then you can work your way backwards from that. What you need to do in order to unpack and slice it? Well, you need to have paid for it. In order to pay for it, you also need to have ordered it. And in order to order a cake, you need to have selected it. And that's the process from end to end. So you first select your cake, and then you stand in line, that's the triangle there, waiting for the baker to take your order. And then you stand in line again for the sales representative and in order to pay for your cake. And then you go home, you unpack it, and you slice it. This tells you somewhat of the process. It doesn't tell you how long each step takes, or how many there are in the queue, but it's a starting point, and that's something you can use to continue investigating it. We can then start looking at what's value adding in this and what is actually just waiting time. Value adding is when we're selecting the cake, when we're actually ordering the cake, when we're paying it, when we're unpacking it, and when we're eating it. The waiting times are the times when we're standing in queue, and when we are going home from the bakery, and when we are, I don't know what, sitting and watching the cake, getting hungry before we start eating it. This time you can start measuring in your process. You can start, if you can't measure it, you can estimate. You can look at what's the average case. Actually, some recommendations is that you should look at one specific case rather than the average cases. And now you have a means by which you can start looking into this process. For example, why are we sitting and looking at the cake for 5 minutes before we actually eat it? If we eat the cake in the shop or just outside it, we don't have to go home, so we don't have to wait those 15 minutes in order to get to the eating of the cake bit. If we're able to pay an order in the same time, we can probably do that in slightly less than 10 minutes, the 4 plus 6 minutes. Perhaps not 4 minutes or 6 minutes, but say 8 minutes. We can probably select the cake while we're standing in queue, if there is a queue. So we can merge some of that time. And now we have a means by which we can look at what is waste and what is value adding and how can we improve it. We can also look at the total cycle time. How long does it take from you entering the shop to you actually eating the cake? That's the value adding time and the waiting time. We can look at the cycle efficiency, which is the total cycle time, the total value adding time divided by the total cycle time. Meaning that the total cycle time is 42 minutes, so from you entering the shop until you've finished eating the cake is 42 minutes, that's just summing up what you have there. And the process efficiency is 29%. So that tells you something about your current process. You can use this now, and move around stuff, do things in a different order, merging, splitting your different process steps, involving different stakeholders and different places, adapting different agile lean frameworks, for example, and see how that will change your value adding and waiting time. And that's a brief introduction to value stream mapping. Now, when you look at it in your company, you're going to find that it's probably much harder to figure out what exactly are the steps, how long does it take to complete each of the different steps, and what could you do to actually change it. That will be much difficult, but it actually isn't. The theory behind value stream mapping is actually not more difficult than this. Thank you.